So without further ado, let's give it up to Mr. Financially Clean himself, Shaun Lynda.
Welcome back. Check. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for coming back. Everybody had a good lunch? Let's all collectively say thank you, Matt. 1, 2, 3. All right, we want to do this next year and every year, right? Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about credit and the importance of credit. I know some of you guys are going to be yawning, but whatever your chosen field is, credit plays a role in that if you want to achieve excellence. America, was made a lot off of debt. And if you learn how to manage debt, how to leverage that, how to make it work for you, you will achieve success. And credit is the way to which to understand those skills. It's a skill set. For somebody like myself that I said earlier has multiple properties in New York City, I wouldn't be able to have all that without credit. I wouldn't be able to have all that if I didn't know how to manage credit effectively. So I tried to put together a group of panelists that can help kind of guide you guys and give you guys a little insight, a little inspiration. Obviously, we can't get through everything on credit today, but it should just motivate you to learn more and understanding that maintaining, if you got to leave with anything, you all have excellent credit right now because most of you have no credit, right? So you just want to make sure that when you start this credit game of yours and you get credit cards, things are in the back of your head about managing credit, paying things off in full, not carrying excessive debt, not lending your credit out. Oh, I need to get something. Can you put this on your credit card? Or could you sign this, co-sign this for me? These are the things that you need to kind of think about and understand because I've met people that are my age now and have regrets about credit mistakes they've made when they were younger and just not knowing. And part of why I started Financially Clean, to be very honest with you, is that I wanted to take a proactive approach to credit, meaning that before you establish credit, I want to teach you about credit so that I don't become a credit repairman. I want you to be a credit person that's aggressive and knows how to use it to make it work for you. Because if you really understand what credit can do for you, you can achieve wealth. Very simple. There's a path, there's an algorithm, and it's just figuring out that path to success and knowing how credit plays a role in it.
And today is an excellent start to that path. So you know your moderator, Shaun Lynda. Let's give it up for our first panelist, Mr. Russell Bramwell. You know him as the founder and CEO of Hope Dreams Dedication, Inspiring Change, providing supportive housing to dozens of folks out in the Long Island area. And a fun fact about Russell is he a self-proclaimed Iron Chef. I know him from the real estate world, not from the kitchen, but we'll let him tell that story. Okay. Up next, let's make some noise for Malcolm Adams, y'all. Malcolm has been an NYC real estate agent since 2007, but not just an agent. This brother is an investor, a consultant, a renovator, and a property manager too. He's had a lot of hands in not only developments, but also affordable housing developments. So even maybe a lot of the property you see in your neighborhoods. And a fun fact about him is one of Malcolm's nickname is Malcolm from Brooklyn. I hope, what was that at the end right there?
It's Dutch. That's how they spelled Brooklyn back like 400 years ago. I'm that old.
Without further ado, give him a warm round of applause, and I'm going to pass it to Shaun with our first question.
I just want to take notice of Mr. 850, who's been through me, who's been part of my financial literacy journey for the last 5-6 years, and unfortunately he had a family emergency that he had to attend to, so he couldn't make it today, but his presence is missed, and he's somebody that I love to have here because he has a perfect credit score, which is very rare, which is 850, and he would love to talk to you guys about that. But hopefully when you're back here next year, he'll be here in your presence. So shout out to Mr. 850. Hope everything works out with your family.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to start with you, Mr. Bramwell. Mr. Brown was a very fast talker. He's a flipper, what I call him, real estate, buys and sells property. But how important is credit in your business and what you do, and then just to even further that, and what is your relationship with money, and put it all together with credit as well.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. I'll start backwards, right? My relationship with money is okay, right? Because I like to spend a little bit. I'm not as frugal as maybe I should be in terms of saving the way I should save. So I like to live a comfortable lifestyle, right? So I spend on things. Now, in terms of credit, you can't do anything in America without credit, right? Because credit, what allows you to do is to leverage what you have. So as in my profession as a flipper, if I'm buying houses, let's say if I buy 4 houses at a time, that could be millions of dollars out there, right? So you need to be able to have people behind you who believes in what you can do and will say that, you know what, we'll lend you the money so you can get these projects and you can make a profit, you pay us on it, as opposed to me putting all my money out there, right? So if you don't have the credit, because your credit's going to show exactly how responsible you are in terms of paying that back and what the risk looks like in terms of paying it back. So if you have bad credit, they'll never lend it to you. You have good credit, you have good payment history, you have, car loans, houses, all that kind of stuff when they see that you're responsible.
Yeah, I would just to piggyback on what Russell's saying, what he's trying to say to you is that, in America, regardless of your credit score, somebody will lend you money. But what terms will you get? What will the interest rate? How much will you have to pay back? Credit puts you in a position of access. And the better your credit score is, the better access you have, and the better you'll be able to leverage and create better deals for yourself and better opportunities, and more doors will open. Even when it comes to purchasing, renting an apartment, purchasing real estate, it's the first point of where they can of right of refusal. We don't have to rent this to you. We don't have to give you this product. We don't have to lend this to you. We don't have to do this because you don't have good credit. And it's something that'll always follow you and hinder you through the rest of your life, because you may try to do everything else right, but your credit holds you back. So with that being said, I'm going to go over to you, Malcolm. So Malcolm is a real estate broker and also a real estate investor. And I'm sure you have a lot of clients that come across to you and say they see this house, they have all the money in the world to buy this house, but they need to get a mortgage, and then their credit isn't good. So what are some of the things that you will tell young adults that directly affect their credit and lower their score that they're not even aware of, and things that they can kind of do to improve that?
Well, first of all, thank you all for having me. The first thing you have to do is you have to control your spending. I know it's really hard. You guys are really impulsive. I was the same way when I was a kid, and I bought a lot of dumb stuff that I didn't need. And you'll realize, it'll be 2-3 years later, and you'll be like, why did I buy these Gucci flip-flops or whatever? You don't need any of that stuff. If you focus in on the real things that are important, that are going to establish your life. You want to get a house, you want to get a car. You can't even get a rental. I rent a lot of apartments, and the first right of refusal is your credit score. You need a 680 minimum. If not, then we were talking about terms. If you don't have a minimum credit score, then you got to get a cosigner, putting somebody else's credit at risk. Or you have to get insurance. There's rental insurance now, where you have to pay to get into a rental apartment. So everything revolves around your credit and your spending and your discipline and your focus. It's the most important thing.
Very good. Russell, question for you. People out there a lot of the time, people come to me and say, they try to avoid getting around their personal bad credit by saying, I'm going to have a business line of credit and versus my personal line. Kind of explain the difference between business credit and personal credit, and is that true? You can avoid bad credit by using business credit?
The difference between personal and business is that the business can sustain itself, but it has to start with your personal credit.
Correct.
Right? You have to show, for example, if you want to borrow, well, we already know that you have to have good credit, right? And you have to have credit cards, you pay your bills on time, stuff like that, right? So now when it comes to getting business credit, because you can get business lines of credit, you have to be able to show that they're not just you can't walk into a bank and say that, I want to borrow just $5. And if you have no credit for the $5, it's not going to give it to you. So you want to make sure that you're a guarantor first. Right? Then once you guarantee that personally, that if the business doesn't pay it, then I'm going to be responsible to pay that money. Right? If you can't show that your credit is worthy for that, then you'll never get it. So then what happens once you get that, because you have decent credit, and then you can borrow that $5 from the bank, after you pay that back, now you have credit that stands by itself. Right? So they'll see that the business has the ability to pay its own bills, and it has its credit to pay, so they'll start to lend you more money on the credit. Now, the plus side of that is that it's not tied to you anymore, right? So as a business person, if you want to start a new hair salon, or you want to start a car dealership, or whatever, you want to start get into music business, you can use that credit, and if your business doesn't succeed, it doesn't fall back on you. Right? So you still have a fresh start where you can say, okay, well, this didn't work, and this is how America works, right? The business can fail, like our past presidents failed many times, right? And then come back and do something else in a new business and make that business, and if that fails, you can come back again and then try until you can succeed with your business. But if it's just on your personal credit, and once you ruin your personal, then it's done for you. So the difference is that it gives you the opportunity to not ruin yourself when you're trying to move forward.
But it's something what you're saying, you can't just keep your bad credit, personal bad credit here, and then say, now I'm going to get this new line of business credit. So that's a misconception that's always out there. You still have to manage your personal credit. And when a building is thriving in its own and has its own legs and it's moving along, it's chugging along, then yes, you can kind of move away from your personal credit, but there's no way you can just get a tax ID, start a new business, and say, oh, bank, lend me money because I'm using my business credit. All right, so that question for you then, Malcolm. Credit repair, these people that call you up and say, hey, I can fix your credit score, I can balloon it from 680 to 800. Tell us the misconceptions about that and the reality if it's true or not. And especially for young people, because somebody's gonna come across you guys in life and be like, if you have bad credit, oh, we can fix your credit. Now, give us a little background on that and what your thoughts are.
Well, you definitely can repair your credit, and I use services like that all the time. We consolidate debt. That's one of the best ways to clear your credit, to take all this bad debt with terrible interest rates and terrible terms all over the place and get one loan to consolidate them. But it still requires your personal discipline, because once you get it consolidated and get it under control, the next thing you know, you go out there and you extend more credit, right? And one thing I want to stress, because there's a lot of young people here and you're like, I'm not going to buy a house right now. I live in New York. I don't need a car. What are we talking about credit for? But you're going to need credit for anything. If you want to do the rap album, if you want to do the beauty salon like he was talking about, or the barbershop, you're going to need credit. You're going to need somebody to forward you some money so that you can build the business. And so this is very, very important. So the scams that are out there in regards to credit repair is you're going to people that aren't licensed. You're going to people that aren't that don't have brick and mortar businesses. You have to go to legitimate businesses that can put their license on the line, and that they can help you consolidate the debt and pay it down, and don't extend any more credit. That's how you repair it.
Just to add, credit is for all of your students, it's like your report card, right? It's no different than a report card. And if a teacher gives you a bad grade, is there likelihood you can have that teacher change that grade? Sure, but it's not you can't just get an eraser and erase that F on your report card and change it to an A. There are things that have to happen in order for that to work. So when people tell you they can get rid of things, you cannot, anything negative on your credit report, it cannot be removed, but it can be done with what Malcolm was saying. You can do a consolidation, you can do other proactive things to help raise your score. But something that's negative on your report is going to stay on your report for a number of years. So I just want you to understand that, especially when people come to your credit report. I'm so happy you're asking a question in the middle of the conversation. That's great, because you can all ask questions in the middle of the conversation. So yes, please ask your question. Please give her a round of applause, because I think that's very courageous. She's standing up, she has a question, she's paying attention. Sitting in the front row, where we all should sit in class.
Can you use your business credit as your assets?
Say that one more time.
Can you use your business credits for your assets?
For your assets?
Yes.
You mean to buy stuff, to buy your assets? Absolutely. I mean, that's what we do all the time. Almost all of the properties that you buy, the whole reason for creating a business is to protect you and to protect other elements of your business. So if I have multiple homes, you don't want a lawsuit on this home to affect the prosperity of this home. So we put them all in separate businesses. All businesses are corporations, they're called. That's Latin for body. They're actually persons. They're recognized as people in regards to the law. And so this person is different from that person. So you have a business, that business has money, and you want to buy assets with that business. That person, that business can buy assets. And it's perfect. It shields your other assets from being, if this one fails or you get sued or something, it prevents them from taking everything else. So absolutely you can buy assets with it. All assets are something that makes you money. So we have businesses, and businesses cash flow after all the expenses, that's an asset. If you have a house and it doesn't cash flow and it doesn't make you any money, that's a liability. So assets are things that make you money. Kids are liabilities. I love them, but they're liabilities. Don't have kids until you have more assets.
Okay.
We got the Flatbush Big Up. Give us another one.
Let me just jump in on that really quickly. So, and also, assets doesn't have to be houses and cars. It could be cars. Just basically, when you buy something, if you buy something of value for less. So let's say if you buy a piece of gold, right, or like a gold chain. If you bought it 3 years ago, gold's always rising. So another 4 or 5 years, it's going to go up in value. So it's going to be worth more than what you bought it for. That'll be an asset. If you buy a piece of artwork, from somebody who's famous, or like a baseball card, right? Or a comic book. That could be an asset. So just depending on if it can give you some kind of value, because you can have assets as a 17-year-old and have something that's of value. You have to wait for a house, but you can have things that can be of value. Even when you're buying sneakers, right? It's a big sneaker culture. You could buy it for $200, and then you have the Travis Scotts that sell it for $700 or $1,000. That's an asset, right? So anything that can trade for something higher than you're buying it for, right? So you can start off with some smaller things and make it more, that becomes assets for you. All right.
I just want to even go back a little bit about credit so you guys understand. And is anybody scared of credit? Anybody doesn't even want anything to do with credit? Who's scared? Show of hand. Who likes credit? Who's got to welcome credit into their life? Raise your hands. Okay, so let me just, in the simplest form, which I can speak from a real estate perspective, about the importance of credit. So, for example, if I'm buying a house and a house costs $100,000, and I'm making $50,000 a year, and I got all my expenses, it may take me 10 years to accumulate $100,000 to buy that house. But if my credit is good, the bank can say, well, give me 10% down of the $100,000, which would be $10,000, and I can then buy that house and pay a monthly payment on it. And if my credit is good, the interest rates will be lower, and I'll pay a lesser payment. Now, with that, if I had excess money, say I still had $100,000, I can use the rest of that money to buy more houses. And this is what the wealthy does. So and then when I could sell that house, or I can take money from the house and accumulate more houses and get more mortgages and lending. So you could have, when a lot of people have, like, they'll own multiple properties, and one purchase bought that multiple property. So, and this is all from leveraging and using credit. And you can take that formula in your business and acquiring assets and using credit to help leverage yourself to accumulate more wealth. And I bigged her up at the beginning. She wasn't here. Please stand up. This is Tanisha. She made everything happen. Stand up, please. It was her. Stand up. She's from the Met. She pushed for this to happen. And she's giving me this thing that we got to wrap it up quickly. So are there any questions that we can have regarding credit? Because we have Ebro coming. I want to make sure you guys are here to meet with Ebro from Hot 97. And we have all these other people coming. So we have two more questions, and we'll kind of go on to the next panel, right? So, yes.
I just wanted to ask, what was your first experience with credit? And, like, what was your first knowledge of credit?
My first experience was terrible. Okay? I went to college, I got a credit card, and back in the days I ran to Macy's and I bought every Tommy Hilfiger shirt I could buy on that card that I could not afford. Okay? It was terrible. When the bill came in, I couldn't pay it. Right? Because that's what you do, because I didn't understand it. And that's what I'm glad we're talking about this, because your generation has more of an entrepreneurial spirit from what I can see. Go out there and you make a t-shirt, you'll do this, that, whatever, and you can start companies, and you're more willing to go out there and start companies, but the difference is not understanding on how essential the credit is to doing that, right? So making sure that as your company's growing, let's say you wanna, because you're promoting on your Instagram, but you're doing as best as you can, you might need to pay somebody, so you can go out there, if you're managing your credit properly, you can get a business loan, a small one, right, and it starts to pay to promote your business, your Instagram, and buy more supplies and do stuff like that. But if you just waste your money on just a pair of sneakers that you want to wear or some clothes, then you'll never be able, and you don't pay your credit back, then you'll never be able to have those opportunities. So when they push credit cards into your hands, because over the next year or two, you're going to start getting them because they want to get you early. They want to give you the high interest rate. So you really want to start to pay attention to that, especially if you have dreams of just doing your own thing, because you're going to get hindered. You'll start to go here, and then when you need money, you won't get it. And you're going to get down here, and you're going to be disheartened and not really want to, you feel like you can't make it anywhere because you don't have the background. Your parents don't have the money, which I know that's where I came from, right? So, and you just can't find the money nowhere else, and you've ruined your opportunities by not taking care of your credit. So especially if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to be very vigilant and understand exactly how credit works.
To piggyback on that, all of you are probably getting credit cards. My son is 20 years old. He's second year college, and he's getting credit card offers in the mail all the time. And I'm sure all of you are getting those. The worst debt on earth is those credit card debt. Macy card, freaking Amex. You have no job, but they're giving you $500 to buy sneakers. That's the worst debt. The interest rates are the highest. And it revolves too, so that you don't pay, and then you're going to pay interest on the debt that you didn't pay, and it just revolves and gets bigger. It's the worst debt you can get. That's why we're trying to be preemptive right now. We're trying to be preemptive to make sure you get these things. That's not what you need. You have to be intentional when you're using your credit. So we don't need any credit cards. You don't need a Macy's card. If you need a card because of school or whatever, you get one card and you ask your parents or some sort of supervisor to help you manage it. But like all these credit cards that they're offering you, it's the worst thing you can do. The interest rates are too high, and you'll revolve, and then you'll start on a spiral that won't allow you to fulfill your entrepreneurial dreams. So if you don't take anything else from this discussion, do not use consumer credit cards. Don't go into the store and get the freaking Banana Republic card because they offer it to you. Don't use any of that. Either you buy it with cash, or you get one card. I have an American Express, the only card I ever use, and you have to pay it off at the end of the month. So you get all the credit of using the card, but you don't get all the accumulated debt.
Well, let me just answer that. Yeah. It's a lifestyle choice, right. And I know we got to end quickly, but credit cards are marketed around lifestyle choice. So there's cards that are specific to travel, there's cards that are specific to business, there's cards that are specific to just discounts for a number of retail stores. So you have to do your homework. And as young people, I think you want to focus on cards that charge a lesser amount of interest and a lot of student discounts, maybe for travel, for this sort of thing. So, and as you go through stages of life, your needs are going to change and your card habits may change as well. So it's really based on lifestyle. But I think the important thing that Malcolm is saying, that Russell is saying, is that to pay it off in full every month, and don't let materialistic things absorb your credit use, because when you really need it for entrepreneurial, for business, for mortgage, for health, to grow in life, you'll be hindered by those Jordans. You'll be hindered by, the things that you bought that were materialistic, that don't add to your growth. Like I talked about in a previous segment, you're on this path of success, and credit is one of those things that can elevate you or take you out. And the choice is yours, and which way you want credit to take you to the next level or to keep you down and hinder you.
And just to be very quickly, right? There's two things you gotta know about your credit. Don't spend more than 30%. Even if it's $100, spend $30, because it's about averages and percentages, right? That's how they see they can trust you, because if you're maxing it out, then they're not gonna give you anything because you're living above your means, right? Secondly, you have to understand that your credit, there's every single month it reports to your credit bureaus, right? So you want to know if you get a credit card, you want to find out when it reports. Because if you do max it, you want to pay before that report date, because it's going to affect your score. So your percentages of how much you use, always try and keep it 30% or less, right? And then because they'll trust you, and then in a year or two, you'll get higher credit limits, right? And then make sure you're paying it before the report date. It's very important to remember those two things.
All right, we got to...
Yeah, one quick thing. I think this is super important. If you guys can... get a credit score. Go to any one of these. I don't want to endorse any of them, but you can go online and get your credit score. That's your homework for today. You need to know your credit score, because once you know it, then we can create a plan on how we want to move forward, whether we need to repair it or whether we need to make it better. 850, that's the top credit score. He's not here today. 680 is probably the minimum, and then anything less than that is trash. Find out your credit score today, tomorrow, and then set a plan for how to use your credit properly.
You got one more? We have time for one more question, Ramon? Ramon says one more question. And I like that the only two front rows are, so I'm going to push to the back. Ethan, my son, you're the next question for the next panel, so you better take notes. Your whole Brooklyn friends are asking questions. You guys go to Brooklyn Friends, you're asking questions next round, so you guys better get your pen and pad on and do the homework. How do you find out your credit score? It's free. You can go to freecreditscore.com. I think it's out there. Experian, Equifax, they all give it out free every year. So it's something that you can get it for free and monitor what your credit is going to be. Okay, one more question in the back.
Can you tell some of the younger students how they can actually go about building credit?
Absolutely. You want to
answer? It's just good spending habits. You have to pay your debts on time. That's the critical thing. If you miss a deadline on paying your debt, that affects your score. So you have to pay your debts on time. Just like he said earlier, you got to spend 30%. So if they give you $100 of credit, you got to go to $30. You can't be going to $75, because even if you're paying that debt, you're still affecting your score because you're using all of your available credit. So you have to make sure that you're using just 30% of your available credit, and you have to make sure you pay your bills. Paying your bills on time. And another thing, do not, for any circumstance, allow someone else to use your credit. We've been in situations where people with the same name and the same family are using each other's credit. Do not do anything like that. No one else. It's the most personal thing that you can ever do. No one else uses your credit but you. Not your mom, not your brother, no one else but you.
Round of applause to our incredible panelists. Remember, your credit score follows you everywhere you go, so I hope that you learned some incredible gems. Give them one more round of applause, please, y'all. Like I said, these brothers not only have investments, they also have amazing credit. I would never let somebody broke tell you what to do.